ended my phone addiction. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Chill English Talks. Today's episode is a personal one and honestly, a little overdue. I'm talking about something that controlled way too much of my life for way too long, my phone. If you've ever found yourself reaching for your phone without thinking, scrolling for hours, or feeling anxious when it's not nearby, yeah, I've been there. Big time. But something had to change. So in this episode, I'm sharing exactly how I ended my phone addiction, the wake-up call that made me see the problem, the steps I took to break free, and how life feels on the other side of constant distraction. No judgment, just honesty, and maybe a few laughs at my past screen time habits. So let's dive into it. So let me take you back to the exact moment I realized something was seriously wrong with how I was using my phone. It was a Sunday night, the usual lazy end of the week vibe. I had this long to-do list for Monday, things I wanted to feel excited about. But instead of getting ready for the week or even relaxing in a healthy way, I was lying in bed, doom-scrolling TikTok, again. I told myself, just one more video, and I meant it. But the next time I looked at the clock, it was 2:47 a.m. I'd been on my phone for almost 4 hours straight. 4 hours. No breaks. Nothing productive. Nothing memorable. Just a blur of memes, drama, ads, and random content I couldn't even recall 2 minutes later. I remember putting the phone down and just staring at the ceiling. My eyes were burning. My mind felt cloudy, like it was buzzing but also completely numb at the same time. And the worst part? I didn't even enjoy it. It didn't relax me. It didn't entertain me. I just felt drained. And that wasn't a one-time thing. That was the night I finally noticed what had become a regular habit. I started thinking back to other nights like that, the times I sat in silence, mindlessly scrolling instead of calling a friend, skipping workouts, ignoring books I said I wanted to read, even avoiding uncomfortable feelings by diving into the distraction of the screen. I thought about how many dinners I'd interrupted by checking my phone. How many mornings I started by reaching for it before I even opened the curtains. I even realized I hadn't been bored in years, not because life was exciting, but because my phone had filled every silent second. Waiting in line? Scroll. Commercial break? Scroll. Sitting with thoughts? Scroll. That night, something clicked. It wasn't just about screen time anymore. It was about presence. About time I couldn't get back. I pulled up my screen time stats for the past week and I'm not exaggerating when I say I felt sick. I had spent nearly 6 hours a day on my phone and over 28 hours just on social media apps. That's an entire day. Gone. Scattered into little pieces of distraction. And the most shocking part? I couldn't even remember what I had looked at during all those hours. I couldn't point to one thing that added meaning to my life, taught me something new, or even made me truly laugh. That's when I knew something had to change. It wasn't about quitting cold turkey or blaming technology. It was about reclaiming my time, my mind, and my attention. And that night, that silent, unsettling moment lying in the dark with my eyes burning and my thoughts racing, that was my wake-up call. It didn't fix everything overnight. But it started a journey. And I'm so glad it did. Okay, so after that late-night moment of realization, I started thinking. How did I even get here? How did this tiny device, something meant to help me, end up quietly hijacking my time, my energy, and honestly, my peace of mind? I wanted to understand the why behind it all. Not just blame myself for being undisciplined or lazy. That kind of shame doesn't help anyone, and trust me, I tried it. But it turns out, this whole phone addiction thing isn't just a me problem or a you problem, it's a design problem. Our phones, especially apps like social media, games, and even some news platforms, are built to be addictive. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every time we get a notification, a like, a new message, our brain releases a little hit of dopamine, that feel-good chemical. And like any reward system, the more you chase those dopamine hits, the more you start needing them to feel normal. I read this article that called smartphones a slot machine in your pocket, and it hit me hard. Think about it, you pull down your notifications, sometimes there's something exciting, sometimes there's nothing. That unpredictability? That's exactly what makes slot machines addictive. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful psychological hooks in the world. And social media companies? They know this. In fact, many of the people who helped design these platforms openly admit they use behavioral psychology to keep us engaged for as long as possible. They track what we watch, what we click, how long we hover, and they adjust our feed in real time to keep us on. It's not about you being weak. It's about technology being too strong. But it wasn't just the apps, I also had to look at my own triggers. Like, what was I avoiding when I reached for my phone? Boredom? Yep, anxiety? Definitely, awkward silence? All the time. I started noticing that I reached for my phone in any uncomfortable moment, even in conversations with people I cared about. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just didn't want to sit with discomfort, or silence, or, let's be honest, my own thoughts. And it got deeper. I realized my phone wasn't just distracting me, it was shaping me. It was affecting how I thought. How I slept. How long I could focus on a task before needing a quick scroll break. Even how I measured my self-worth, like, why did I care so much how many views or likes something got? My attention span? Wrecked. My ability to read full articles or sit through a movie without checking my phone. Gone. My default setting became, check phone first, be present second. And here's the kicker, most of the time I didn't even want to be on my phone, I was just there out of habit. Out of impulse. Like muscle memory. I realized I wasn't choosing to scroll, I was being pulled into it, almost like a magnet. And the more I let it happen, the weaker my ability to resist became. That's when I really saw this for what it was, not a harmless habit, but a carefully engineered system that I had unknowingly surrendered to. And if I wanted to break free, I had to stop blaming myself and start understanding the system, because when you can name what's controlling you, that's the first step toward changing it. So yeah, that was my deep dive into the roots of the addiction. The science, the psychology, and the personal patterns that made my phone the first thing I reached for in the morning, and the last thing I saw at night. In the next part, I'm going to share what I did about it. The steps I took, imperfect, small, sometimes awkward, to untangle myself from this grip. Spoiler alert, it wasn't easy. But it was worth it. Steps I took to break the addiction. Alright, so once I understood how deep the problem went, I knew I couldn't just make a dramatic one-day decision and say, that's it, I'm quitting my phone forever. That's not how real change works, especially when the thing you're trying to change is something you literally carry with you 24/7. So I decided I'd take it step by step. No pressure to be perfect. Just small, intentional actions to slowly take back control. And honestly, that approach made all the difference. So here's exactly what I did, not just once, but consistently, to break my phone addiction. Step 1, I faced the numbers. First, I stopped lying to myself. I went into my screen time settings and really looked, at how many hours I was spending on my phone. It was uncomfortable. But it was also powerful. Because once I saw the numbers in black and white, 6+ hours a day, 4 of which were spent just scrolling, I couldn't ignore it anymore. That became my baseline. I knew where I was starting from, and that gave me something to improve on. Step 2, I decluttered my digital life. I started treating my phone like my physical space. If something didn't serve me or brought clutter to my mind, it had to go. I deleted a bunch of apps, especially the ones that pulled me in without intention. TikTok? Gone. Twitter/X? Gone. Instagram? I didn't delete it completely at first, I just hid it in a deep folder, removed the home screen shortcut, and logged out. That way, getting to it took effort. You know what happened? I stopped opening it just because I was bored. Step 3, I created phone-free zones. I made some rules for myself. Simple ones. No phone in bed. No phone at the dinner table. No phone during walks or while watching a movie. It sounds basic, but these small boundaries helped me separate real life from screen life again. I even bought a cheap alarm clock so I could stop using my phone to wake up, which was huge, because that morning scroll trap is real. Step 4. I scheduled downtime. I used my phone's screen time settings to set limits on social media, just 30 minutes a day. And I stuck with it by setting app limits and using downtime mode after 9 p.m. Did I bypass it sometimes? Yep. But even the little reminder that popped up made me pause and ask, do I really need this right now? Or am I just avoiding something else? That question alone made a big difference. Step 5. I did mini digital detoxes. I experimented with one-day or half-day detoxes, no phone at all except for emergency calls. I'd put it in a drawer, turn off all notifications, and just live. At first, it was weird. I felt this itch, like my hand kept reaching for something that wasn't there. But over time, that itch faded. And I actually started to enjoy the quiet. I remember going on a long walk with no podcast, no messages, no camera. Just me, outside. And it felt like I was relearning how to be present. Step 6. I replaced, not just removed. This was huge. I realized that just removing the phone wasn't enough. I needed to replace it with things that filled me up. I made a list of go-to activities I could do instead of scrolling. Journaling. Reading a few pages of a book. Doing light stretches. Listening to music without multitasking. Taking a mindful walk. Calling a friend. Having that list ready helped in those "what do I do with my hands now" moments. Step 7. I used tech to beat tech. Yep, I fought fire with Fired. I installed apps like Forest. It gamifies focus by growing a tree when you stay off your phone. 1 second, adds a delay before opening social media, so you can catch yourself. Screen Zen. Gives you insights and prompts mindfulness before opening apps. These tools helped me turn unconscious habits into conscious choices. And that's the key. Step 8. I gave myself grace, and finally, maybe most importantly, I didn't beat myself up when I slipped. Because yeah, I still had nights where I scrolled too long. Days where I got lost in my screen. But instead of quitting or labeling myself as a failure, I just asked, okay, what happened here? What can I learn? I treated it like a journey, not a punishment. And little by little, I started noticing a shift. I reached for my phone less. I became more present with the people around me. I rediscovered parts of myself that had been muted by noise and notifications. It wasn't about being anti-phone. It was about becoming pro-life. Pro-focus. Pro-peace. And trust me, that shift is everything. Challenges and relapses. Now listen, I wish I could tell you that once I made all those changes, it was smooth sailing from there. That I suddenly became one of those serene, focused, no notification, journaling at sunrise kind of people. But yeah. No. The truth is, breaking up with phone addiction isn't a straight line. It's more like a winding road with potholes, detours, and a few U-turns. And I definitely had my share of relapses. One week I'd feel amazing, reading more, sleeping better, actually living my life. And then, boom, a stressful day would hit. Or I'd be bored, or lonely, or just emotionally exhausted. And before I even realized it, I'd be right back on that endless scroll, watching people cook recipes I'll never try or arguing in comment sections I didn't even care about. There was one weekend I remember vividly. I was feeling a bit low, didn't want to deal with anything, and I thought, okay, I'll just chill and catch up on Instagram Reels for like 10 minutes. Famous last words. I opened the app, and 10 minutes turned into 3 hours. And the worst part? When I finally put the phone down, I felt worse than before. That was a huge lesson for me, that these relapses weren't just about screen time, they were about emotional coping. I had to admit to myself, my phone wasn't just a habit. It was my emotional crutch. Stress, anxiety, boredom, insecurity. Instead of sitting with those feelings or processing them, I reached for the quick hit of distraction. And in the moment, it worked. But afterward, it left me more drained, more disconnected, and more disappointed. And you know what? That realization was actually empowering, because once I recognized what was really happening, I could start changing my response. The next time I felt that urge, that pull to reach for my phone just to escape, I tried something different. I asked myself, what am I avoiding right now? That one question helped me pause. Sometimes I still picked up the phone. But other times, I chose to do something else. Even just acknowledging the urge gave me a tiny bit of power back. And over time, the relapses got shorter. Less intense. Less automatic. I also learned to talk to people about it. I shared my goals with close friends, and I even asked a couple of them to hold me accountable. Not in a strict way, but just with check-ins like, hey, how's your screen time this week? That helped more than I expected. Because the truth is, we're not meant to fight this alone. We're living in a world designed to steal our attention. So if you're struggling, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're human. And honestly, the relapses taught me as much as the successes. They reminded me that this journey isn't about being perfect, it's about being intentional. It's about getting curious instead of judgmental. And it's about celebrating the wins, even the tiny ones, while giving yourself grace when you slip. So if you've ever tried to cut back on phone use and found yourself falling back into old patterns, please hear me when I say, you are not alone. Keep going. Keep showing up. Keep resetting. Every time you choose real life over screen life, even just for a moment, you're rewiring your brain. You're strengthening your awareness. You're moving forward. And that progress? It counts.